I took one of my coworkers out for some drinks. We didn't realize that the cocktails reached $21. So when the bill came and it was $300 and I put it on the company card, my boss wasn't thrilled about that. So if our customers could help me out a little bit, I asked for a little bit of favor and said, if you just buy a few of our Whiskey Barrel watches today, then my boss will forgive me for the credit card charge. Send some things that most other brands wouldn't. So many people are used to thinking of just an ad account activity is creative testing, but there's so much revenue to be made from creative testing within your email campaigns and your flows. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Triple Whale's 10 Tactics to Master Before Q4. I'm your host, Nate Lagos, and you guys made it halfway through. Thanks so much for being here. The last couple episodes with Sarah are amazing. And in this one, we're going to learn how to take all that new content you create and accurately and reliably test it across every layer of your marketing funnel so you can feel the compounding effects of dialing in both your visual and written content. If you're new here, for some reason you started on episode 6, I am Nate Lagos. I'm currently the VP of Marketing for Original Grain Watch Company, and I've had about a decade of experience in e-commerce, helping brands grow profitably from zero up into the mid 8 figures a year. And I am doing this series to make sure brands are set up to have the biggest and best Q4 they've ever had. And a big thing about this Q4 is the processes and the tactics that we're going to outline here aren't just going to serve you this Q4. They're going to be able to serve as a springboard to new heights of revenue and profit in 2025 and beyond. So thanks so much for being here. Please hit up me and Triple Whale on Twitter with feedback or questions on the episodes. Would love to help you guys out as much as possible. So let's get into episode 6. How to test content, how to test creative. You know, this is an episode where we're going to do a deep dive on my 3 largest testing grounds, which are my ad accounts, my email campaigns, and my website. But before we jump into each one of those areas, I want to make sure to encourage you and your marketing department and your team, whether that's agencies or in-house, make sure that you are sharing data across the whole team and across every channel. So many times brands will get, messaging on a Facebook ad to crush, but they don't tell the email team that, like, hey, this messaging is really crushing on ads. Maybe we should incorporate it into our welcome flow. Or maybe there's a, graphic format or a headline that's ripping in your email campaigns, but you're not using that on your website anywhere. So I'm going to dig into the specifics of each channel here, but I really want to encourage you to take learnings from everywhere. If something is helping you sell a product in one spot, it can probably help you sell that same product in another spot. So for me, that's why I like building in-house teams. But even if you work with agencies or freelancers, encourage them to share with each other what's working the best right now. Because a win on Facebook ads or a win on email is likely going to translate to a win somewhere else in your marketing funnel as well. Now, as we dig into each channel, I want to emphasize that the goal of this is not to teach you my favorite way of testing creative. There's a whole bunch of theories on, how you should test creative on ads and best practices. I'm not here to preach to you my, dogma. What I want to convey to you and what the goal of this episode is so that you can create a stable and reliable and consistent process that's yours to test new content, to be able to identify what's working, and to be able to replicate that and iterate on that going forward to bring you healthy and profitable growth to your brand. So that's the frame I'm coming into this with. I will open up and give you a peek behind the curtain to exactly how I do it. It's totally fine if you have a different way that's working for you. You can lean into that, but I'm going to include some key things on each channel that you could be doing to make sure your testing actually ties back into the business results that you want to see and not just in-platform metrics looking good. So first up, let's talk about the ad account. This is unfortunately the only place I see most e-com brands testing content. And later in this episode, we'll get into email content testing and website content testing. But for most of you, I hope you are used to testing content in your ad account. Before we do that, and before we look at what to test Q4, I want you to look backwards. I want you to take a look at your top performing and your worst performing ads from the last 12 to 18 months. I want you to look at them month by month windows because buyer behavior can change and seasonality can change. And I want you to pay special close attention to what happened last Q4, last Black Friday, last Christmas, last Valentine's Day, last Father's Day, last Mother's Day, any other big promotional period that your brand might have had over the last year. Because for us, we see quite different buyer behavior when we look at gift-giving segments and cohorts and seasons versus evergreen seasons. So make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Make sure you go back and look at last Christmas and last promo period for you. Look at the ads that did the absolute best. Look at the ads that did the worst, and see what patterns you kind of see emerge from that. So that is step one. Look backwards and make sure you fully understand what happened in the past to give you either a good or a bad result in that promo period, and take those learnings into this next phase of content creation. The second thing I want you to keep in mind during this is that your evergreen ads, likely ads that you're running right now, should take up the majority of spend this holiday season. Our sale ads, our ads that say Black Friday or Christmas sale, or our ads that say up to $100 off, typically only make up about 30% of my ad budget, even during these peak periods. And I do that for a couple reasons. One, the ads that are working in evergreen periods for us, that are working in, July or August, which are usually the dog days of summer for a lot of e-com brands, those ads are only going to work better when buyer behavior and, buyer demand shoots up. So there's no reason to kind of throw out what's working. I've had ads that have been on for 18 months straight, and I have no plans on turning them off because they're doing exactly what I want them to do. So look at your evergreen ads and trust that you can count on them, because if they're working now, they're only going to get better from here on out. The second reason I like to kind of lean on our evergreen ad creative during holiday times is so that when we get to January, or when we get December 27th and our Christmas sale is over, we don't have to start over. We don't need to bring in 100 new ads because we were so overly reliant on sale ads that we have to now all turn off because, that sale isn't active on site anymore. We can just turn off our, one sale campaign and let our evergreen ads that have learned a ton in the last couple of months, they have the most positive engagement, we've been able to spend a ton of money on them, let those ads carry us into Q1 because we know they already will work. So don't be overly reliant on sale messaging. It's likely that your existing ads are going to do really well this Q4. But we are talking about testing creative, and we're talking about creating new content that we learned about last week with Sarah. So I still want you to run those new ads. Just don't expect them to take 90% of your budget. If they take 20 or 30 or 50% of your budget, that's fine. Evergreen ads are still going to perform well. And then when people get to your site, they're going to see that you're having a sale anyway. So as we get into the topic of Facebook account structure and how to actually test these things so they test accurately, you can get reliable data. My way of doing it is probably the simplest way I've ever heard. I launch new ads into the existing campaign and the existing ad sets that sell the same products or sell the same collections that the new ads are going to sell. I let the new ads compete directly against the past winners, against the current ads that are spending the most money. For me, I only want those ads to earn spend if Facebook determines they deserve it, right? Because as I'm testing creative, for us, the goal is to always sell more watches. So if I have a campaign or an ad set that is selling this one watch, and we've got ads in there that are performing well, and I know they're performing well because I'm selling a lot of that watch, then I launch new ads into it. If those ads don't spend, then nothing's lost, right? I decide that, all right, Facebook didn't think those deserved it. They did not earn the spend, and they did not show enough good data to become the new top ad in that ad set. As long as we're still selling a ton of this watch, then that's a successful test for me. I'll say, all right, the new ad lost. I'll try again. I'll launch something new the next week or the next month. If that first ad continues to spend all the money, but sales of that watch go down, I'll turn off that ad that's taking most of the money and force Facebook to spend on the new ads I put in there, because performance dropped, so I need to make a change. We'll see if these new ads can do it. That is my simplest form of attribution that I use. Now, I also rely on Triple Whale's Pixel to give me more granular data about which specific ads are driving which sales. I am a huge fan of their Creative Cockpit. I'm in there once a week. In fact, when it's time for you to go back and look at your past 12 months of ad history to see what has worked the best, the Creative Cockpit is the best place to do that, because you can sort ascending or descending by any single metric you want. And it's a really great way to get a visual and to start to see some patterns emerge of what's working best for your brand. So, kind of primary form of attribution on creative tests in Facebook for me are sales of the product I'm advertising. Then I get deeper into the ad account platform data, and I get deeper into Triple Whale to see exactly what's driving what, and can uncover some gems in there that can really make our decision making process clear. Now, I want to warn you here, and this goes for all creative tests, but it's especially true when you're testing creative in your ad account. Creative metrics like click-through rate or hook rate or average video playtime, those creative metrics, or what I've called micrometrics, do not always correlate with the business results you really want to see. Click-through rate does not always correlate with a lower CAC, or a longer video hold rate does not always correlate with higher return on ad spend or more profit to your business. So while those metrics that are very often used as the North Star for creative testing, they might be an indicator that you're onto something. They might be a good indicator that you are on the right track with your messaging or your hook or your headline or the visual. But if that ad isn't helping you sell more of the product it's advertising, then it's not a good ad. I don't care what the click-through rate is. In short, don't optimize for metrics that don't pay your bills, right? When you got to place that next PO for inventory, you're not telling the supplier what your click-through rate was or what your cost per click was, and you're not even telling them what your ROAS was. You're writing them a check. You're sending them a wire. So make sure whatever your favorite Facebook account structure is, whether you want to have a testing campaign and a scaling campaign, whether you want to test all your new ads with cost caps or bid caps to mitigate wasted spend, I get it. And that is all great. But make sure you have a way of tying those in-platform or Triple Whale metrics to dollars in your bank account. That's why I like to keep it's simple. Rely on Triple Whale's Creative Cockpit to make decisions when comparing single ads to single ads. And then when I'm evaluating overall business results, just look at Shopify. Look at ad dollars spent promoting this watch versus sales of this watch, and make sure they're trending in the right direction. The last thing I want to say about creative testing as we get into Q4, as it relates to your ad account, is make sure you have a process that's not going to crumble with increased pressure and decreased bandwidth. Because we're going to get busy this holiday season, and if it's taking you, 10, 15, 20 hours a week just to manage your Facebook ad account, then that's taking away from other valuable things you could and should be doing in Q4. Another reason why I like to keep it simple is my process just doesn't take that long. And take it from someone that's growing top and bottom line 70% this year. I don't think it needs to be much more complex than what we're doing. So please take into account when it comes to everything you do in business, but especially creative testing in your Facebook ad account or your TikTok ad account, wherever you're spending money, please take into account the opportunity cost of the time invested into optimizing that platform. Right? If you or the main marketer on your team are spending half of their time digging into your ad account. That might be helpful. That might be the best thing for them to do. But audit their time. Make sure that they're not missing other opportunities that could unlock a higher level of growth, rather than spending all their time tweaking the ad account or micromanaging their ads or setting up cost caps for everything. Again, my way of doing it is very simple and easy and consistent, and it doesn't take me a lot of time, so I like it. But if any of those other ways are working for you, that's fantastic. Just make sure you're thinking about it with your Q4 glasses on. Make sure you're thinking about it like it's December 4th, and you and your team are stressed out and you're tired and family's coming into town and you've got a bunch of stuff to do, but you have to maximize sales still. Make sure you have a process that's going to hold up against increased stress and pressure and decreased bandwidth. All right. I could talk about creative testing on Facebook ads all day, but I'll end it with this. Make sure the way you're testing is you're always comparing apples to apples, right? A certain ad format might be great for one product, but not be great for another. One type of image might get you the best click-through rate, but you're not after that. You're after profit dollars in your bank account. So make sure whatever process you choose for testing creative on Facebook, make sure you're comparing apples to apples and everything is tested against each other fairly, and make sure you can correlate it and you can track it back to business metrics that really matter to you. All right, there's enough content out on Twitter and LinkedIn about creative testing in your ad account. I'm sure if you're watching this, you already have a method that's doing all right for you. So I'm going to move on to a couple areas where people don't talk about creative testing enough. I don't think people look at their email campaigns and their email flows as potentially a giant creative testing ground. But I can tell you there's so much money to be made. And unfortunately right now, there's so much money left on the table from brands that aren't relentlessly testing creative in their email account. So here's how I want you to start this process. Just like I had you start with the Facebook ads process, I want you to go look at your best and worst performing emails from the last year. Again, pay special attention to the emails from last Black Friday and Christmas. You can start to see how those patterns trend during these big promotional and big gift giving seasons. What I really want to encourage you to do here is look at what you've been testing on email and go look at all the results of those tests right in a row. Right? Too many marketers know that they should test, 2 or 3 or 4 subject lines with every email. Or maybe they do a, visual creative test with most of their emails. But the next day when you wake up, you might only go and look at the results of that one test. But I highly, highly recommend go look at the results of all your tests in one sitting. Because you'll be surprised at the patterns you see emerge that you might not pick up on a day-to-day basis. But when you go look through all of your emails from last November, or all of your emails from your Valentine's Day sale, or your last big gift giving push, you might see some shocking trends that'll really show like, oh, using more urgency in our subject lines always seems to do well every single time we do it. Maybe we should test more into that this Q4. Or maybe you'll see putting a little text box before the header image on most of your emails gives the readers more context and produces a higher click-through rate, which produces a higher revenue per recipient. Again, these are subtleties that you might already be testing and you might already be checking on those tests. But if you're checking on them in isolation, if you're checking on them only when you think about it, if you're not checking on them in big batches with the frame of mind of how should this affect my Q4 email calendar, my Q4 email strategy, then you're leaving money on the table. So be really intentional with email when you go back and look at what has worked and what hasn't. Make sure you're viewing it through the lens of Q4 2024 and you're looking at all the data at once so you can start to see the strongest patterns. Now, I want you to do that through all of your campaigns and all of your flows. But I want to start talking about your email flows, your welcome flow, abandoned cart, abandoned browse, post-purchase flow, whatever else you've got going on. I really want you to dig into each one and identify where revenue starts to drop off. You'll be surprised at how many email flows I've seen that are 7 emails long, but all the revenue comes in the first 2 emails. Or all the revenue comes in emails 1, 2, and 4, but it skips 3. I want you to pick up on those patterns and implement changes as we approach this holiday season. For us, what it typically looks like is we typically see a massive drop off in revenue when you get to that 3rd or 4th email in the flow. So for most of the year, if those 3rd or 4th emails aren't very salesy, they're more content based, they're, talking to you about the brand, about our sustainability campaigns, about anything else to do, we remove them from our flows. Because while that's still information that we like customers to have for most of the year, when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to November and December, all I want people to do is buy. So we'll shorten all our email flows. We'll shorten down both the number of emails and the time it takes to send those emails. So if we typically have an email flow that's 5 emails long and takes 3 weeks to send, but we only see revenue on the first 2 emails or on the first 3 emails, we'll schedule all those 3 emails in 3 days, and that'll be our new flow for Q4. I want all of these flows to be designed to educate the customer on what they need to, persuade the customer with the emotional content we came up with Sarah from last episode. And the third thing I need them to do is get them to buy right now. I think my favorite way to look at an email, when my team brings a design to me, that email has to answer 2 questions in Q4. Why should I buy? And why should I buy right now? If every single email in your flow can't answer those 2 questions for your customers, then you're missing out on a lot of revenue this Q4. So we shorten all those flows, bring the duration down to 1 email per day so they end soon. So that way that subscriber can get sent back into our master list of campaigns and we can continue to hit them with daily messages. My theory on it is if maybe it's a browse abandoned flow or an abandoned cart flow, they were interested in this watch. But if I've emailed them about it 3 times in 3 days, then they're probably not going to buy that watch. So I want to get them back into our campaign calendar because I know our campaign calendar is set up to promote different offers and different collections and different products every single day between November 1st and December 19th. So if I can't get them to buy the watch that they were just checking out, then I'm going to go try to get them to buy anything. Now, I want you to take this mentality over to your email campaigns too. I truly believe every single email, there might be a few exceptions. If you want to send a happy Thanksgiving email or a Merry Christmas email, that's fine. But I think every email between November 1st and Christmas should answer the questions, why should I buy this and why should I buy this right now? Go into design and email briefing meetings with your team with those 2 questions in mind. Why would someone buy and why would they buy it right now from this email? Start testing different creative now that can answer that question. Start running subject line tests and content tests and send time tests now before we get to November so you have a solid plan. So you can start to see that a certain cohort of your subscribers are way more active in the morning than they are at night. We should be making sure we're emailing those people in the morning come November. You should be looking at what style of messaging is getting the most people to open an email. Is it scarcity? Is it urgency? Is it informational? Is it funny? Is it pattern breaking? Is it just something that no other brand would, send out in an email? These are all the things that you should be testing now right away so that you can start to see patterns emerge and you can start to really dial in on what your November and December email strategy should look like. A couple big wins for us in the email world in the last couple of years is, first of all, testing our email cadence. We have found that we are actually able to send way more emails than we ever thought possible to the same segments we've always sent to, and people are not unsubscribing. I mean, people are unsubscribing, but not at a higher rate than they were when we were sending 5 emails a week compared to now we're sending 10. So don't be afraid to push your list kind of to its limits this Q4. I think especially this time of year, I only want someone on my list if they're going to buy anyway. So if they unsubscribe, that's fine. But I want to make sure I'm squeezing every drop of revenue out of those people before they ever churn. We've got an internal joke at OG that my email guy, my director of retention, I'm sure is sick of me preaching to him. But I literally tell him when it comes to November, December, especially the weekend of BFCM, I tell him, send emails until we get an email that produces $0 in revenue. Because if you keep pressing send on an email and you keep selling products, that means there's still juice left to squeeze there. So I don't know if he's actually going to follow that or not, or I don't know if we could get to that point without unsubscribes shooting up, but we haven't so far. We've dramatically increased our email cadence for a few holiday periods in a row now, and we haven't seen people churn at any higher of a rate. And yes, we still get complaints to customer service, and we had someone email us last year that said, you've emailed me 28 times in 2 days from Black Friday to Sunday. And yeah, we did. But our unsubscribe rates were still really low, and our revenue was really high. So we were happy to keep sending emails. But other than cadence, the other biggest thing we have tested that has proven to be extremely valuable for us is sending plain text emails straight from either the founder or Nate, the marketing guy. We've developed these characters over the last year or so to now where when we send an email that's separate from our normal campaigns, it's from Nate, the marketing guy, we see higher open rates, better click-through rates, and better revenue because we've humanized the brand and they have gotten to know this character that they trust now. I've emailed them some pretty crazy stuff over the year, and I want to encourage you to test content like this because it can be really, really impactful. I sent an email that was from Nate, the marketing guy, that included a screenshot of a text from my dad. And the subject line was, my dad texted me this. And it was a text from my dad in June telling me to get him a better Father's Day gift than I did last year. And I went on to explain to that email that, hey guys, I woke up to a pit in my stomach today from this text from my dad. And I'll put the email on screen here so you guys can read it word for word. But I go on to explain that I forget what I got him last year, but I know 2 years ago I got him a watch from Original Grain, and he loves that thing and he wears it every day. So I'm going to give it to him again. I sent another email out where I explained that I took one of my coworkers out for some drinks and we had a good time, but we didn't realize that the cocktails reached $21. So when the bill came and it was $300 and I put it on the company card, my boss wasn't thrilled about that. So if our customers could help me out a little bit, I asked for a little bit of favor and said, if you just buy a few of our Whiskey Barrel watches today, then my boss will forgive me for the credit card charge. I want to encourage you to send some things that most other brands wouldn't, right? Like we're a watch company. There's supposed to be some prestige with what a watch company is, but sending these very relatable, very humanizing emails have been some of our most impactful creative tests within our email channel, and we're trying to do that across our marketing funnel. So please be encouraged by this to push the limits of what creative testing in email can mean, because so many people are used to thinking it of just an ad account activity is creative testing, but there's so much revenue to be made from creative testing within your email campaigns and your flows. So take a look at what has worked best for you. Test subject lines, send times, send cadence, visual content, and pushing the boundaries of new email ideas that you've never sent before. Start testing those now so you can go into November with a really solid strategy of what types of email and what types of creative are going to convert your list the best this holiday season. All right, now I saved the best for last. The single most impactful thing I have done for our brand all year is creative testing on our website. See, when you creative test in Facebook or any ad channel, or you creative test on your email campaigns, those are only helping that channel, right? A winning ad on Facebook is only helping that ad. But when you unlock a creative win from a creative test on your website, it automatically makes your ads perform better. And it automatically makes your email perform better. 100% of your conversions happen on your website. So I think your website should be your main testing ground. I think it is the place that can unlock the highest potential because it's where all your conversions come from. So we have spent a tremendous amount of time this year creative testing on landing pages and on our website this year. And because of that, we've been able to scale our site traffic drastically. And at the same time, we've been able to increase our conversion rate, our AOV, and ultimately our revenue per session, which is our North Star for creative testing on our website. I won't go into my whole spiel on why conversion rate is not the best metric to judge website or landing page performance on, but basically, here's how I break that down. I could double your conversion rate tomorrow. I just run a 50% off sale. I could double it again the next day if I cut all your ad spend today. There are ways that you can kind of increase conversion rate that don't actually help the business grow. The best way to help the business grow is to increase revenue per session. So that is our North Star when we look at creative testing on our website. It, kind of factors in AOV and conversion rate into one number that you can optimize for. Now, I'll put one more kind of asterisk before I get into the nitty gritty of this. We don't do what's typically called like CRO. We don't do a lot of like new landing page format testing. We don't do a lot of site structure testing. We do some of it here and there. But our biggest wins on our website have been on price testing, which is going to be covered in the next episode, so make sure you come back for that, and content testing, which is what we're talking about here. And when I say content testing, the biggest things we're testing are headlines, copy, and images or video or any kind of visuals on the website. So first, let's talk about headlines and copy first. If you listen to the last couple episodes with Sarah, you'll get our entire spiel on messaging that can really cut to the core of emotions and the core reasons as to why people are buying your products. And you should definitely be incorporating that into your on-site creative testing strategy. But this is also where I want you to go pull those top performing emails and Facebook ads from and look at what type of messaging, what headlines, what subject lines, what call to action on Facebook ads have produced the best results for you. Because if it's working there, it can probably work on your site as well. And then that'll lift every channel you're marketing on. What I really want you to pay attention to as you start to write copy and write new messaging this Q4 is make sure you're talking to the right person. Make sure you are talking to either the gift buyer or the gift receiver. Those are the only two people that are coming to your website this year. Someone who's buying the gift and someone who's going to receive the gift themselves. However you want to segment that, that is up to you. If you want to have different LPs that you think will be landed on by one cohort or the other, that's on you. But don't try to be in the middle. The middle, everyone hates. The middle doesn't speak to anyone. It speaks to no one, and it's not effective at all. So for us, the vast majority of our website is going to be written to the gift buyer this Q4. As you come to our site this year, you might be a little bit surprised to see how much of our messaging is geared towards a female gift buyer who is shopping for her husband. Now, you might think that turns off the men who are coming to shop for themselves, and we're working on some ways around that. But in the meantime, it is so important to make sure you're marketing to the majority. Market to the people that are giving you all the orders this Q4. So it's most likely the gift buyer. But if you have a certain landing page that's connected to a certain ad that you know is targeted, in our case, maybe it's only targeted to men, maybe it's only targeted to an interest that would be the gift receiver, then definitely message to them. But don't try to blend messages because you're going to end up speaking to no one and losing everyone. When we test headlines and copy in Q4, we like to keep these tests short. And I say short, I like them to be as long as they can, but I like all the testing to be over by Thanksgiving, right? I want the least amount of stuff that could possibly go wrong on our website. I want it to be done. So my Thanksgiving tradition is I eat steak because turkey kind of sucks. I'll drink just a little bit of bourbon to take the edge off. And then I'll sit down on my computer and I'll turn off all of our price tests and all of our content tests on our website. And I'll set all the winning headlines and messages and copy and images and prices. I'll set them all live so we can get the absolute best performance. And so there's no risk of glitches or anything going wrong on our site on the days where it really matters. Now, you might see certain patterns emerge as you start this site testing process. It might be new for a lot of you, but a couple things I want to encourage you on is try to find a couple formats or a couple trends that work for your hero SKUs, your most popular collections, and apply them to the rest of your site. It's really hard to do the opposite. It's really hard to test on products or collections that don't move a lot of volume. So we have found success in really only testing this content on like our 2 or 3 highest traffic landing pages and then applying it to the rest of the website and trusting that that performance that performed well on our heroes will perform well on everything else as well. There's certain exceptions to that. Obviously, if the copy or the headline doesn't apply to that product at all, then change it. But for most of our catalog, we trust that what works on our top dogs will work for everything. So make sure you're testing kind of on the highest impact areas of your website. If you're not familiar with what those are, go to Shopify Analytics Reports, look at sessions by page, and make sure you are hitting those highest traffic pages first. If you want to get more granular on what people are looking at on those pages, you can get a tool like Heat Maps. This is not sponsored or anything, but I'm a customer of theirs to see, what people are clicking on, what elements on your site are driving revenue and what aren't. And then just to roll out the whole tech stack here, I use IntelliGems to test all of our prices and content. It's a really great tool. Now, let's talk about testing images on our site to wrap up this episode. There's a couple things to be thought of here. One, I want you to think about not just testing your website, but testing the whole customer journey. So testing the types of images that people are going to see from your ad account to when they come to your website, to when they opt into your email list and start getting your welcome flow. Keep that in mind. Maybe they don't want to see the same photo 4 times. So while my statement holds true of, what works on one platform might work on another, you don't want to get overly repetitive and, reliant on any one piece of creative on any one headline. So what we like to do is kind of use complementary content that makes sense for where people are at in the customer journey. We know for us that we sell watches, and at the end of the day, a watch is a piece that you're going to spend a lot of time looking at. You want it to look really good. So most of our ads that you see, if you go on our Facebook ad library, you'll see a ton of static, high quality photography of the dials of our watches, because that's what people want to see right away. No matter how compelling we make the rest of the ad, until people see that dial, they're not going to be super interested. They're probably not going to click on it, and then they're probably not going to come to the website and check out. So a lot of our ad content is super product focused. What we're trying to do now on our website and emails is put more lifestyle content in there so we can show people exactly who we're marketing to, the kind of life that they might want to live and want to see for themselves that might not have grabbed their attention on the ad. But on our website, it reinforces that they made a good decision by clicking on our ad. When they click on an ad of this watch, and then they come to the landing page and see a bunch of guys sitting around a campfire drinking a cold beer, then they know that that's their kind of guy. And they know that if that's their kind of guy, then this must be their kind of watch. So Think about testing visual content on site as being complementary to your ad account, to your email campaigns and flows. Make sure it's not just repetitive, but takes learnings from those other channels and complements it or supplements it with something that you don't show on those channels. To wrap up the section on landing pages here, I really want you to encourage you to take this seriously. This might be, between this episode and next episode where we talk about testing prices, this might be some of the most impactful. I'll say it here. The end of episode 6 and episode 7 are the most important episodes in this series. It is so impactful to be able to increase the amount of revenue you're extracting from every single person that comes to your website. Think about how much of your time and energy is designed to get people to your website. If you're marketing right, it's probably most of it. Every single ad, every dollar you spend on those ads, every dollar you spend on content creation, the time you take to run email campaigns and set up automated flows, all of that is designed just to get someone to come to your website. And if you're not actively and relentlessly testing content on your website, then you're missing out on a lot of money. And I would hate for you to go into this Q4 and look back and realize I didn't optimize, I didn't creative test the one channel where 100% of my conversions come from. So please go test headlines, copy, and images and videos on your website to find what produces the highest revenue per session to make sure you maximize this Q4. Now, all in all, we understand the power of creative. No matter where you're testing it, it can unlock new levels of growth for your business that you've never seen before. So I want to highly encourage you to go look back at your best performing ads, emails, and landing pages from the last year, especially those that performed well during gift giving seasons, and make sure you're implementing what you learned from that to test new creative as we approach and into this Q4, so you guys can have the biggest and most profitable holiday season that you've ever had. Thanks so much for watching this episode. Make sure you follow Triple Whale. Check out their Creative Cockpit. It is so valuable for analyzing the success or failures of all your creative testing on your ad channels. And make sure you come back for the next episode on price testing. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.